all your school rugby, all in one place. This is Next Gen 15.
Alright guys, welcome to Next Gen 15. So today's top 10 video topic is the top 10 disappointments of the youth rugby season in South Africa. So if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to click that subscribe button as well as bell notification, and as soon as new videos are released, you'll be the first to know. Let's get into the top 10. In 10th place, we have the Westville class of 2020. Now, in a region dominated historically by the likes of Glenwood and Maritzburg College, all signs are pointing to a renaissance in terms of Westville rugby. The class of 2020 possessed one of the most dangerous backlines in the country. Players such as Mamba Mkize and Larry Nkonki will go on to become household names in the future. Along with a pacey backline, their forward pack looked mobile yet powerful, and Bryce Calvert is a player whose name you should take care to remember. The powerful hook is only under 17 and will likely be the premier hook in the country next year. The opening game of the season against DHS resulted in a statement of intent, with the Westville boys putting 50 points on the board, and perhaps was a sign of things to come. Unfortunately, we will never know, but it is indeed a fantastic sign that Westville rugby is back on the rise. At number 9, we have the World Schools Festival. Now, although word is that there are attempts to copy this festival, there can only truly ever be one World Schools Festival, and that is the one that began in 2018. A noble pursuit and the brainchild of Heineke May and Carinat Sports Marketing, the tournament had its critics, but few fully appreciate or understand how hard it is to arrange a festival between many different nations with different school calendars and priorities. The 2020 edition looked well placed to be a bumper event, and perhaps the most mouth-watering clash would have been between Auckland powerhouse King's College and Grey College from South Africa. Despite not being the most recognisable name in school rugby, RKS from Fiji would no doubt have showcased extraordinary talent that Fiji possesses, with the 2018 Sanex winners eager to show that they belong. Hartbury College would have made a welcome return. The AASE powerhouses no doubt would have competed with the best South Africa would have had to offer. And then finally, there was a strong international academy lineup to further challenge the South African teams. Although not strictly a schools versus schools tournament as the founders had intended, the selection of South African teams outside of the traditional powerhouses would have no doubt levelled the playing field and given us more competitive games than previous versions of the festival. No doubt that the World Schools Festival will be back in 2021, and we certainly look forward to seeing how the teams line up and hope the tournament goes from strength to strength despite its detractors. At 8th place, we have the Baby BOKS World Cup chances. South Africans often brag about having the best youth rugby in the world, but that has rarely been seen in the Under-20 Championship. The last time a South African Baby BOK team won the tournament was all the way back in 2012 on home soil. Historically, the team has more often than not taken home the bronze medal, and even in years where they should have won, they have come up short. This year's group, it was felt, would have been the team who would have finally taken home the gold. Possessing hardly a weak area, the squad would have had the traditional forward string South Africa is known for, along with a backline that would have dazzled. The forward pack would have undoubtedly been led by Evan Ruiz, a player with all the qualities to become a legend of Springbok rugby. Along with them, he would have had fierce partnerships such as Henry Jacobs, JJ Kotze, Lunga Ngube and Banele Mtajane, amongst others, who would have stood back for no opponent. The backline would have excited, and no doubt the best junior scrum half in the world, Jaden Hendrickson and Johan Mostert, would have been the halfback pairing of the tournament. Both boasting excellent tactical awareness as well as incredible speed off the mark, they would have put an exciting backline on the front foot, where players such as Wellen Darber, David Kellermans, Trevino Jacobs and Richard Creel, amongst others, would have excelled. We'll never know how far they could have gone, but there's no doubt they would have been a breath of fresh air for a country who has relied so hard on a more conservative style of rugby. In 7th place, we have CRAVEN Week. Now, love it or hate it, CRAVEN Week is a special tournament to many and is often where legends are born, with players from smaller schools really able to step up and make a name for themselves. To think of all the players who have missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play at what is without doubt South Africa's most prestigious tournament is heartbreaking to say the least. Having worked hard and dreamed of their big moment, in an instant it was taken away from them. Another factor to consider is that this tournament is often a shopping window where scouts throughout South Africa and the world are able to identify top prospects and sign them to their clubs. How many a career stagnated due to this tournament being cancelled, we will never know. Who would have stood out and had that one magic moment? Who would have taken the honours? We unfortunately will never know. In 6th place, we have the Grey College versus Paul Gym fixture. Now, if there's ever going to be a clash of the Titans this year, it would have no doubt been between this year's Grey College and Paul Gym teams. A truly mouth-watering clash, and one that no doubt would have determined the number 1 seed in the country. There would not have been an inch given by either side, and one feels that it could have gone either way. The matchups were so equal, with no team having a clear advantage in any area of the field. Dream matchups would have been the order of the day, with both sides possessing 5 to 6 players who could have played SA schools. The fact that the game would have been played on neutral territory would have added much to the fixture, and it would have taken a moment of brilliance to win this fixture, with both teams possessing a number of players that could have pulled it off. At first place we have the AFFIES class of 2020. When looking at lower age group results of this AFFIES generation, one could be forgiven in thinking it would not necessarily have been their year. We ourselves were perhaps a bit guilty of this, but after seeing their first 2 performances, we were forced to eat our words. The 2020 season was a historic one for AFFIES. The school has gifted us some of the finest players in the nation, and it was celebrating its centenary year, and work was done in the background to ensure this year's group was ready to face the challenges head on. In Willie Potgieter and Reynard Ludwig, they had 2 of the best forwards in the country who would have been ably supported by players such as Bjorn Graham, and no doubt the AFFIES spirit and playing for their badge would have pushed them forward in their centenary season. Connecting the forwards and backs, a truly special young player, and one who we feel for, is of course Johan Muller. Johan, a hard-working and humble young talent, had been extremely unlucky with injuries, and this was to be his year. Fully fit and ready to go, his goal was to make the SA Schools team, and if you bet against that, you would have been foolish. He is a prospect who, despite all adversity he has faced, fought and achieved where few others would have. AFFIES has always been solid in the forwards department, but if there's an area we felt they would have shocked friend and foe like, it would have been the back line. In Kieran Nokia, they have one of the best rookies in the country, a truly special player that will go very far in the game. And in Carl Liebenberg, they have a feisty winger whose ferocious running and tackling would have put AFFIES on the front foot. Not forgetting the Dutoy pairing at centres, and you have a team that is well balanced and ready to strike. 2020 was not a centenary to remember for AFFIES, but they as a school should still be proud of the exceptional players they produce who conduct themselves with the right spirit, both on and off the field. Coming at 4th place, we have the Pole Derby, and the Pole Derby is without doubt the biggest school rugby derby on the planet, and one that attracts old boys and girls as well as fans throughout the globe. The rugby community was in shock when it was announced the Pole Derby was cancelled. Countless SA schools and Springbok rugby players have graced the field on this derby, a derby where legends are born and contested by 2 schools with a history so rich it is the envy of many. This year's Pole Gym team looked to be exceptional, likely the best team since 2013, and they would have taken on a Pole boys team with a high proportion of grade 11s who would have no doubt fought for every inch. We can only dream of what a 2020 Pole Derby would have looked like, and the fact that this derby has previously been played through the Spanish flu as well as world wars and depressions shows you just how important this derby is to the noble community of Pole. And because of the lockdown, the memories of the world's greatest derby have been robbed in 2020. Speaking of derbies, in 3rd place we have derby days in general, and often major school derbies are tied in with reunion weekends, and this not only were pupils affected by this year's lockdown, so were the alumni. For many, 10, 20, 30 or even 50-year reunions are an opportunity to catch up with old friends who you would likely never normally see. It is a time of fellowship, drinks and stories, and everything is shared. After all, who doesn't like a bit of nostalgia? It is also an opportunity for the school to showcase new facilities, and there's always a sense of pride from alumni when they see how far their schools have come. To think that missing out on a reunion this year likely means a wait of 9 years for another reunion just shows how important these events are. Further, one has to consider the pupils. Having represented their schools from a young age, these derbies are the accumulation of a pupil's high school career, and many have worked extremely hard specifically for their derbies, and the lockdown has robbed them of the experience. In 2nd place, we have WESSEL du Plessis' final season, and there's no doubt that WESSEL du Plessis is a special coach who has every chance of one day going on to coach at national level. For a coach of this pedigree, and after all he has done not only for grey college rugby but school rugby in general, to go out this way leaves a very sour taste in the mouth. Du Plessis took over the head coaching reins at Grey in 2014 and imprinted his philosophy on the Grey team, with mobile forwards and backs willing to run from any area of the field, showcasing the best of South African school rugby. His teams were a joy to watch, with his 2019 team likely to go down as one of the best teams not only in Grey history but in South African schoolboy history. His win rate of 90% as a coach speaks volumes about his relationship not only with his team but the school as well. This year's grad team had a series of firsts, namely their first black captain in Vuma Zonke, as well as a very much more representative team, and no doubt that bodes well for the future. At only 35 years of age, time is on the coach's side, but perhaps the challenge of moulding the next generation of Bulls greats was too good an opportunity to pass up, and no doubt the coach has all the attributes to become a world-class coach. We here at Next Gen 15 wish him all the best. And in first place, we have the Bishops class of 2020. Now, Bishops have a respectable rugby history and are considered one of the premier rugby schools in the country historically. One could say that in recent times they have fallen behind the Wineland schools, but they have always played the game in the right spirit, with the boys having the philosophy of running rugby drilled into them from a young age. When Bishops click, their style of rugby is a sight to behold, and to say it's easy on the eye is an understatement. This year's Bishops team was set to be the best in a generation. The best that never were, as they've become known, would have no doubt set the local scene alight, particularly when you looked at their pre-season game against Poljum, one of the country's frontrunners. In the forwards, they would have no doubt been led by PAARI's #1 prospect, Connor Evans, who would have found ample support in a far larger and more physical pack than the school have had in years gone by. The forward pack would have laid the foundations for what would have no doubt been one of the nation's premier backlines. With Ngomazulu at pivot, no doubt the premier fly-off prospect in the country dictating play, and perhaps the most underrated centre pairing in Mikey Ford and Ollie Jones outside of him, and further Suleiman Hartzenberg waiting on the wings, crowds would have been on their feet watching this talented team go at it. The matric year is vital not only for the development of the player, but also for his prospects going forward. We have zero doubt that players such as Ford and Jones would have been snapped up by various unions had they had a full season to display their abilities. Unfortunately, due to the lockdown, it was not meant to be, and to us it is far and away the biggest tragedy for youth rugby in South Africa in 2020. If you appreciated this video, please don't forget to smash that like button, and if you have not yet, get with the program and click that subscribe button as well as bell notification. While you're here, if you're interested in more quality content, why not head over to our website, www.nextgen15.com. That's www.nextgenxv.com. Cheers.